ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति shantiः. Namaste my dear friends, this is video number 3 on Kena Upanishad. This video starts with verse number 6 of chapter 1 of Kena Upanishad, that which cannot be apprehended by the mind, but by which they say the mind is apprehended, that alone know as Brahma, and not that which people here worship, that which, etc. The word Manas in the text include both the mind, the doubting faculty, and the intellect, the determinative faculty. The mind is the inner organ by which one thinks. Hence, it is equally connected with all the sense organs. It pervades all objects. According to the Brahmaṇa Upanishad, desire, volition, deliberation, skepticism, patience, impatience, bashfulness, intellect, fear, all these are mind. That is to say, they are states of mind. A man cannot know what Atma is by means of the mind described above. Atma is the controller of the mind and the perceiver of its different states. The mind's power to think is derived from the light of Atma shining within, by which the mind and all its different states are pervaded. Therefore, one should know that to be Brahma, which is the consciousness behind the mind. The seer sees an object because the seer is one and unchanging. The various objects of the world, different from one another in size, color, or shape, and changeable by nature, are perceived by the eye. The eye itself, relatively speaking, is one and unchanging. The same is true of the other senses. Again, the eye, with its changing characteristics of keenness, dullness, or blindness, is the object, and the mind is the subject, because the mind, relatively speaking, is a unity. Finally, the mind endowed with such changing characteristics as desire, doubt, determination, constancy, belief, fear, and fearlessness is the object, and it is perceived by the self or consciousness because the latter is a unity. The self, unlike the senses and the mind, is the ultimate subject or perceiver. The consciousness belonging to the self exists eternally. One cannot speak of its birth, growth, decay, or death. As stated in the note on the previous verse, the intelligence or the activity associated with the mind and the sense organs is derived from Atma. Furthermore, verse number 7, that which cannot be perceived by the eye, but by which the eye is perceived, that alone know as Brahma, and not that which people here worship. Perceived as an object by which, etc. It is by the light of Atma that one perceives the different conditions of the eye. Furthermore, verse number 8, that which cannot be heard by the ear, but by which the hearing is perceived, that alone know as Brahma, and not that which people here worship, by which, etc. The ear, like the other sense organs, is inert. Its power of hearing is derived from Atma. Furthermore, stanza number 9, that which cannot be smelt by the breath, but by which the breath smells an object, that alone know as Brahma and not that which people here worship. Smelt, etc. It is by means of the breath prana which functions in the nostrils that one smells an object. The nature of Atma cannot be known by smell, by which, etc. When illumined by the light of Atma, the organ of smell functions. Here ends the first chapter of the Kena Upanishad. Chapter number 2. This chapter also is in the format of questions and answers. The teacher said, if you think I know Brahma well, then surely you know but little of its form. You know only its form as conditioned by man or by the gods. Therefore, Brahma even now is worthy of your inquiry. The disciple said, I think I know Brahma. If you think, etc. The teacher was afraid that the disciple, after hearing that Brahma was Atma, might conclude that Brahma was the ego. I know Brahma well. Brahma cannot, like other tangible objects, be an object of a man's knowledge. Fire can burn all combustible things but not itself. Likewise, the knower can know all such objects as are capable by their very nature of being known by him, but he can never know in a like manner his own self. That Brahma alone is the inmost self of all knowers is the unanimous conclusion of all Vedantists. The previous verses have described Brahma as the eye of the eye, the ear of the ear, and so on, and thus have emphasized the non-duality of Brahma and Atma. Furthermore, there is no other knower or perceiving consciousness by which Brahma can be known. Therefore, any false notion of the disciple to the effect that he has known Brahma well as an object should be dispelled. It is a common experience that a teaching extremely difficult to comprehend is understood only by the man whose mental barriers have been destroyed and not by others. It is also noticed that of several disciples receiving the same instruction from a common teacher, some understand his words properly, some twist them, some get a completely opposite meaning, and some do not understand at all. If it is so in the case of ordinary matters, it is all the more true in regard to Atma, which belongs to the realm of the supersensuous. The logicians have conflicting views regarding Atma. Some say that Atma is eternal and enjoys after death experiences. Some say that it is non eternal and perishes with the destruction of the body. Therefore, the doubt with which the text begins is quite proper. But little, etc. Many indeed are the manifestations of Brahma in the relative world conditioned by names and forms. All objects from the higher deity to the blade of grass are so many forms of Brahma limited by upadhis which are created by Maya. Not one of them represents the true nature of Brahma. Brahma, according to the Vedas, is free of sound, touch, form, name, and other attributes. Its form as conditioned, etc. The forms of Brahma conditioned by the bodies and minds of man and gods are only insignificant manifestations of it in time and space. The gist of the passage is that Brahma, free from all limitations, is infinite, non-dual, sublime, and eternal, and therefore cannot be described as well known by anyone. I think I know, etc. The disciple listened to the advice of the teacher, went into solitude, and deliberated on the instruction with one pointed mind. Then he understood its import by means of proper reasoning, and what is more, experienced it as tangibly as one sees a fruit in the palm of one's hand. Then he returned and said to the teacher that he had known the truth regarding Brahma. The disciple was not shaken by the words of the teacher, who wanted to test his conviction. He remembered what the teacher had said about Brahma, namely that it is distinct from the known and above the unknown. He reasoned about the statement and verified its truth by his own experience. Verse number 2 of chapter number 2 of Talavakāra Upaniṣad. The disciple said, I do not think I know it well, nor do I think I do not know it. He among us who knows the meaning of neither do I not know, nor do I know, knows Brahma. It may appear that there is a contradiction in the disciple's statement. If a thing is unknown, then it cannot be said to be known. If, on the other hand, a thing is known, then certainly it cannot be said to be unknown. To describe a thing as both known and unknown is possible only for a person who is a victim of doubt or hallucination. Such a statement about Brahma is contradictory because the knowledge of Brahma removes all doubts, errors, and conflicts. Deeper reflection on these words will, however, remove the apparent contradiction. Brahma is devoid of attributes and actions. Therefore, it cannot be known as a pot or a jar or any other external object can be known. Hence, it is proper to say that one cannot know Brahma well. On the other hand, Brahma exists in all beings as their inmost self. No one can deny the self. Even a doubter or a negator of the self thinks only in the light of the self. Everyone is sure of his self but does not know its true nature, so it is not altogether unknown. Therefore, one cannot say that one does not know Brahma at all. That's why it was not proper for the disciple to say, neither do I not know, nor do I know. The Upanishad now discontinues the method of questions and answers and states its own views regarding the attitude of the illumined soul toward Brahma. Stanza number 3 of chapter 2. He by whom Brahma is not known knows it. He by whom it is known knows it not. It is not known by those who know it. It is known by those who do not know it. He by whom Brahma is not known, etc., refers to the real knower of Brahma. He by whom it is known, etc., refers to the unillumined person who falsely asserts that he knows Brahma. Not known by those, etc., refers to knowers of Brahma who say that they do not know it. It is known by those, etc., refers to those whose knowledge of Brahma is imperfect and not to those who are totally ignorant. To the latter, the thought of the knowledge of Brahma does not even occur. The imperfect knower sees Atma as conditioned by such limiting adjuncts as the mind, and the intellect, and the senses. He does not see Atma free from upadhis. He confuses his notion of intellect, mind, and the rest with the knowledge of Brahma. Thus, to the imperfect knower, Brahma only appears to be known, it is not really known. If a thing is endowed with a form or attributes, it can be expressed by words or comprehended by thought. But if it is devoid of these, all efforts of the mind and the sense organs to understand it are futile. Brahma is devoid of form, name, and qualities. Further, the mind itself is non luminous. Its apparent luminosity is derived from the light of Atma. Lastly, the power of mind is limited. The more it contemplates Brahma and realizes its true greatness and glories, the more it understands that it can never grasp its full nature. To the illumined soul, therefore, Brahma remains as it were unknown. But the unillumined person, unable to comprehend Brahma, regards one of its upadhis as Brahma and thus concludes that he has known Brahma. What he has known is in reality the mind, the buddhi, or some other upadhi of Brahma. If Brahma is not known at all, it may then be contended that an ordinary worldly person cannot be distinguished from an illumined one. This objection is denied. Verse number 4. Brahma is known when it is realized in every state of mind, for by such knowledge one attains immortality. By Atma one obtains strength, by knowledge immortality. Every state of mind. The word bodha in the text means mental experience, that by which all states of the mind are illumined and also perceived like objects is Atma, though itself pure intelligence and the witness. Atma shines through each and every experience of the mind. He who knows Atma as the illuminer and witness of all mental states knows it well indeed. Atma is free from birth and death, unconditioned and non-dual, though dwelling in all beings. Immortality. Immortality is the very nature of Atma. It is not something which Atma acquires from outside. If Atma is regarded as mortal, this is because it is identified through ignorance with such perishable objects as the body or the sense organs. Strength. That is to say, the power which enables one to attain immortality, the strength gained through wealth, health, mantras, magical words, medicine, austerities, or yoga, cannot overcome death because such strength is derived from causes which are themselves impermanent. The knowledge of Atma is strength itself. By knowledge, etc. The knowledge of Atma is itself immortality. Death results from ignorance. Knowledge destroys the veil of ignorance and reveals the deathless nature of Atma. The knower of Atma may assume or discard bodies as he would garments, but he always remains conscious of his immortality. According to Vedanta, the mind itself is a material entity devoid of consciousness, but like a mirror, it can reflect consciousness. With the help of the light of Atma, it is able to apprehend objects. There cannot be any experience, any internal or external perception without the light of Atma. When a pot is placed before the eyes, the mind takes its form, then the light of Atma reflected in the mind manifests the pot. This mental state illumined by the light of Atma is called Bodha in the text. The illumined soul sees in every mental state or experience Brahma alone, which is consciousness, existence and bliss absolute. A Vedantic text states that when the aspirant does not identify himself with the body and when he knows the supreme truth, then in every state of mind he experiences communion with Brahma. According to the Nyaya system of philosophy, consciousness is not inherent in Atma. It is produced only when Atma comes in contact with the mind. Free from this contact, Atma is devoid of consciousness and luminosity. This view is in conflict with the one expressed in the Upanishad that Atma is knowledge and consciousness. According to a school of Buddhist idealists, consciousness is self-luminous but momentary. Therefore, it is non-eternal. This view contradicts the scriptures which speak of Brahma as eternal and self-luminous consciousness. It is indeed miserable to be born into the world a victim of ignorance and lead the life of a phenomenal being, be it a god, a man, or a subhuman creature, and experience the suffering of old age, disease, and death. Therefore, a man who has attained a high state of evolution and cultivated spiritual yearning should make a special effort to realize in this very life the goal of freedom. So I conclude this video here. Next video number 4 will start with stanza number 4 or stanza number 5 of chapter 2 of Kena Upanishad. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, comment and share the video and subscribe the channel. Namaskar.